If you're in Fairy Tail, you know the joke about how Gray's go-to solution for every problem is iced shell. And while it is a hilarious joke, I want to talk about why Gray's go-to solution is some form of self-harm and why that's so important to his character. By the way, sorry if there's background noise, my sister has friends over. I think a major reason as to why Gray is so drawn to this, why he's so quick to sacrifice himself, to hurt himself, to try and protect others, is because he has mad survivor's guilt. Like, pretty much anyone he's ever truly loved and has been really close with has either died or gone through some horrific shit. Like, Gray was the sole survivor of his entire village. Everyone he'd known up to that point in time was brutally killed in a matter of hours by a demon. And the woman who took him in and take care of him, and whom he later came to see as a mother figure, also was killed by that demon directly as a consequence of Gray's actions. And before anyone says anything, I know that Ur isn't technically dead and that she's part of the ocean now, but narratively and emotionally speaking, she's dead. And the same thing happened to Ultir, at least from Gray's perspective. I made another video on that specifically, I think it's in the same playlist, but long story short, Gray knows that he died during, like, the Festival of the Dragon King arc, and he also knows that Ultir later died, but he thinks it's because she sacrificed herself for him. She had no idea he had died, but he doesn't know this, so as far as he's aware, both Ur and Ultir died because of him. And I'm not even going to get started on all the things that have happened to Juvia because of her relationship to Gray. So a big part of why Gray is so quick to throw his life away is because, from his perspective, he's already survived way too many times that he kind of probably shouldn't have. But I think a big part of this leads into an issue with self-esteem, because Gray simply cannot comprehend why so many people are so willing to sacrifice themselves for him. And we see this affect other aspects of his life. That's the reason why it takes Leon for Gray to realize, oh, Juvia actually is in love with me as a person and not just because I saved her life. So it really feels like Gray has this very cocky facade, especially when it comes to his magical abilities, and that, sure, he knows he's really good and he's always ready to, like, stand up and take a fight, but at the same time, there are so many moments where, like, the moment something goes wrong, Gray's like, I'm nothing. Did I really think I was that great of a wizard? Why would I ever think I was okay with this? Like, bestie, that's not good for your mental health. Like, for comparison, Natsu doesn't really do that. If he's losing against someone, it's not a moment of, oh my god, I'm too weak. That really only happens with Gildarts, and that is a major character development moment for him. But the overwhelming majority of the time, it's, nah, I got this. I can do this. I'll find a way. I will figure it out. Don't you worry. And he does. And I think a big part of the reason why Gray doesn't carry that emotional stamina in a fight is because he doesn't have that emotional health that Natsu does. Now, I'm not saying that Natsu is the most emotionally healthy person because, dear god, is he stunted. But when it comes to himself, his relationship with his own self-image, his relationship with his magic and his history, Natsu doesn't really have any problems with that because it's all a part of him, it's all a part of his emotions, and it's all something that he accepts quite readily and he adores. And I think a big part of it is, like, what happened to the people who taught them magic. Because for Natsu, the person who taught him magic loved and cared for him and mysteriously disappeared one day. So it might not have been Ignil's fault, he could still be alive. Either way, it's a mystery and Natsu's going to find out. But for Gray, the woman who taught him magic and taught him how to live and to raise and took care of him and loved him died again as a direct consequence of his actions, because if Gray hadn't gone after Deliora, she wouldn't have had to do that. So even his own relationship with his own magic is riddled with guilt, which doesn't help him. And I think it's also a pretty major reason as to why we see Gray at his most powerful is when he lets himself go and allows himself to feel things. It's the moments when Gray unconsciously forgets the shame because he's so overwhelmed by some other emotion, whether it's mourning someone he cares about that he thinks has died, or getting revenge, or the excitement of, I'm gonna kick your ass and this is gonna be so good. Anything like that helps move past the guilt. But it's really hard to do that when you're pushed up against a wall and you're desperate and you're feeling all of these emotions, especially when you're alone, which is why I think Gray's go-to solution is to sacrifice himself to end the fight, while Natsu's go-to solution is to just keep going. Because Natsu doesn't have that unconscious guilt associated with his magic. Gray absolutely does, and he feels like he owes it to all the people who have sacrificed to do something similar, even though he doesn't consciously, willingly believe that. Instead, he wants to choose to live for the life that they gave for him. But again, knowing something and actually feeling it are two very different things, and I think Gray is a really interesting example of that.